Welcome to Imprint, a podcast about creating a home and life you love. I'm Natalie Walton, an interior designer, stylist, and best-selling author focused on an holistic approach to homes. Each week, I'm sharing insights and interviews about the creative process to help you enhance both your interiors and well-being, as well as provide you with the tools and resources to make considered and sustainable choices with all that you create. Hello everyone, welcome to Imprint and a new year, 2023. I can't quite believe it. We made our way through 2022 and even the past couple of years, it's definitely been a strange couple of years. And I feel like this year we're all getting back on our feet. And I think we can appreciate that perhaps the old idea of how life works has perhaps gone. Certainly, the sort of the way the world is. That's in part to COVID, and in my region, floods. And I know in other areas of the world, there's been drought. There's also been huge changes in technology, and there's just been a lot of rapid change. And I think that the sooner we accept this kind of new accelerated normal, the more at ease we will all feel. But on the flip side, the good news is that the more accelerated our world becomes, the more we have an opportunity to slow down and to live in a way that feels right and in alignment with us. We can be aware of what's happening in the world. And that's not to say we've got to become Luddites, but, we can choose the path that feels good for us. So that's what we're going to be talking about today in relation to our health, because often at the start of the new year, we take a look at how we want this year to be different and to be better. And there's this sort of a bit of an old idea of New Year's resolutions. I don't know if anyone actually still uses that word, but instead, we could perhaps embrace this idea of New Year refinements. Because if we've learned anything from the past couple of years, it's that our health is everything. It's foundational to our sense of overall well-being, our emotional health, our earning capacity. If you're sick in bed, you can't work. And for many people, you can't earn an income. Our health has affected our ability to travel. So many things, to connect with our loved ones. So health is foundational to everything. And I know that it is front of mind often at the start of a new year. It's an opportunity to start the new year with a clean slate and take steps towards the life that we really want. And in many ways, for me, my journey with simplifying the foods that I eat and simplifying, what I do to my body has actually been the catalyst to all of the other types of simplifying that I've had in my life, from simplifying my home, my closet, so many different other areas of my life. So I feel that when you learn to manage your relationship with food in a healthy way, then you really start to unlock the key to knowing how to manage so many other areas of your life. And that has certainly been true for me. And, if you've struggled or faced challenges with your health, especially in relation to food and what you eat, then I trust that you're going to find this episode really valuable. And the same, if you've struggled in relation to your mental health, then some of the ideas that I'm going to share today, I really hope that you're going to find them valuable as well. Now, this episode is going to be a little bit different to some of the other episodes. It's going to be quite personal in some regards, and I'm going to share some of my own health journey in the hope that it can help some of you. Now, I'm not a doctor, so this is not medical advice. Instead, I'm sharing my experiences and what I've learned and some ideas that I hope you will find helpful on your journey to feeling your optimal self, energized and confident in your own body and self. And just a kind of slight trigger warning for anyone who's struggled with eating disorders or body dysmorphia, or, if you're triggered when it comes to discussions in relation to health and diets, then, feel free to skip this episode. However, what I'm going to share today is, is very much, I'm not a diet kind of person. Like they've just never worked for me. I mean, I have maybe tried a few and they've lasted like a day or half a day. Like as soon as I try and put those restrictions on me, they just don't work. But I've really had to learn how to navigate eating healthily. And I'm often asked, like, how do you do all the things you do? Well, a huge part of it comes down to how I nourish and nurture my body, and, how I look after it, which ensures that I've got, optimal energy and really, like, I've learned what works well for me. And my husband is similar. I mean, he's very particular about, his health and well-being, and we notice it with our children as well. What they eat has a direct impact on their behavior and, and our overall kind of contentment and happiness and well-being as a family. So these ideas that I'm going to be sharing with you today are very much personal experiences, but I just wanted to put that out there. Now, before we get into today's episode, I want to share some strategies that I use in my daily life that I've turned into a series of quick and easy wins for you. I've called it the 7-day reset because research shows that we need quick wins. And, it's very easy to have a bit of an all or nothing approach, but when we start to see small positive improvements, it can lead to big wins. So if you want to start the year on a good note and give yourself some quick, easy wins to make positive steps towards, a clutter-free home, more calm at home, and to really live more in alignment with how you actually do want to live, then I encourage you to join me for the 7-day reset. I'm really excited about this, and you can get all the details and join up at nataliewalton.com/starter kit. So the big promise for today is I really want to, I've tried many different strategies and paths to be healthy over the years. And today I'm going to share 3 strategies, 3 habits that have worked the best and that have seen me through every season and been the most simple and, easy to follow through on. Now, this is a topic that I go into in more detail in my course, the Decluttering Masterclass, because I've actually created a new bonus where I share strategies, and it's called Simplify to Thrive, a nourishing food and well-being program. And I share how I changed my relationship with food, specifically sugar, how I created an exercise plan that feels good and that I stick to, the protocol that I have and the planning that I do ahead of time, which is sort of my guardrails for my relationship with food, and strategies to simplify the food that I eat, which really do help promote wellness and well-being, and how that helps, fuel my family and also minimize, any kind of behavioral issues. It's really fascinating to see how children are affected by food. And I think because they've got such, small bodies, like it sort of becomes magnified. Well, that's certainly been the case. And we've got 4 children, and we've seen this in them and other children, that have come to visit and all of those things. So, but as I said, this is very much me sharing my experience, what's worked for me. And I hope that these habits are going to be helpful to you. So, like I said, these are 3 habits that I have consistently incorporated into my daily life to help me thrive, feel energized, and my optimal health. Because, I'm a busy working mum. I've got 4 children. I'm running 2 businesses, and, I'm doing all sorts of other projects on the side, such as, creating books and all of these things. And quite simply, like I can't afford to feel tired and sluggish. I need to feel my best self every day. And I've really kind of worked out what works well for me. And so that's what I want to share with you today. Now, the first habit that I want to share with you is related to sleep, because sleep will set you free. And for any of those of you who have young children, you will know that lack of sleep is, it's just everything. Like how you feel when you are sleep deprived, you're not functioning. I mean, this is why they say, sleep is one of the number one killers on the roads. People falling asleep on the wheel. It's so deadly. And I know myself that when I've gone through seasons with, either having young children or sick children or, crazy deadlines or whatever, and when I have been chronically sleep deprived, I've actually questioned my ability to drive at times and thinking, this is not safe. Like, I actually can't drive right now because I know that it's not safe. My cognitive functioning is just not there. And I remember when I was kind of going through that sleep deprivation of those very, very early days of, when you have a baby, and with my first child, I'm thinking, this is actually what it feels like for a hangover, and realizing that a hangover in large part is actually due to the lack of sleep. So, drinking disrupts your sleep, which then makes you feel terrible the next day. And it's all around this issue of sleep. So it's, and then it has this kind of huge follow-on effect. I mean, not only is it dangerous in relation to, using machinery, driving, some of those things. I mean, I know that certainly myself, when I'm very tired, my patience is very low, and I grab for, sugary, fatty, salty food. It has this flow-on effect, and then I feel frustrated with myself or whatever it is. So, sleep will set you free. It is one of the key ingredients and one of the kind of key pillars of wellness, that you must get, 7 to 8 hours sleep. And there is so much research on this. I mean, when we sleep, our brain rebuilds itself. That's when neuroplasticity is kind of, that's when it kind of created, if you will. And that's when all those sort of new neural pathways are formed. And it's just so important. And I mean, I could do an entire episode on sleep and the importance of it. And, this is why everyone keeps saying, you can't look at your phone before you go to bed because it interrupts your sleep. It's the same with teenagers. Like, you can't, if they are not getting enough sleep, so if they are on their phone late and it's disrupting their sleep, like, it has huge implications on their brain development, their behavior, so many different elements of their well-being. So sleep is something that you really need to prioritize. And it is something that I prioritize. I mean, I'm in bed at 9 o'clock, like latest. And, I wake up at 5:30. So I wake up early, but I'm always in bed at 9 o'clock at night. I read for a little bit, journal for a little bit, but it's so important to get that sleep. And I really notice it when I don't have it. Now, another habit that I find super helpful in relation to, my health journey, and this kind of also goes into so many other things, is to plan your meals ahead of time. And so what this means is that you are making decisions in relation to your food and what you eat with your prefrontal cortex. So you're not, making decisions with the part of your brain that just wants to seek pleasure. And instead, you are doing things that really serve you. And this is something that I have, I have struggled a lot in the past in terms of being quite impulsive in relation to food. And particularly, if I've been working, hard or running around with the children or doing, X, Y, and Z. And I know the more that I prepare my meal plans ahead of time, then and what I'm going to eat, then the better I eat. It is as simple as that. And of course, there's so many other extra benefits of that when you plan your meals ahead of time, you eat better foods, you spend less on foods because you have less waste. There's just, and you know what you're eating. Like when you eat out, and I can even eat out at, and get a salad or get something that's supposedly healthy, like a Nourish bowl. And I can tell that there has been sugar added or a lot of salt added, and it affects me. Like my body is actually quite sensitive to these things because I don't have them often. And so I can really taste the difference. And if I go somewhere, and even if I was to have like a smoothie and have that for lunch, I can feel a slump a couple of hours later, which then sort of has its own implications. So this idea of planning your meals and what you're going to eat ahead of time is really key on so many different levels. And if you don't do it, I highly encourage you to incorporate that into your sort of either week, if you want to do a weekly plan, or even just like planning 24 hours ahead of time. And one of the other ideas, one of the other habits that I wanted to talk about and share with you today is in relation to your mindset, because mindset will sustain you. Like if you have the right mindset in relation to, your food. So how can you incorporate this as a habit? Well, one of the easiest ways to do this is journaling. And I know I've spoken about journaling before. It really has been one of the most powerful ways that I have really changed lots of habits in my life and really experienced a lot of personal growth and just sort of general wellness and well-being. And, it's really key because the thing with mindset is that you really need to make a commitment to your health journey. And you also really need to make decisions with, the kind of the high functioning part of your brain rather than in the heat of the moment. So if you've ever sort of struggled with, binge eating or overeating or any of those things, that's because you're in that moment, you're giving into desire, you're giving into pleasure. And, that's a whole other conversation that I go into in my course because it's just, it's quite complex in relation to how you need to understand about your relationship with pleasure and buffering and, distracting yourself with food and avoidance and all the things that we go to in relation to food as a coping mechanism to cope with feeling tired, to cope with feeling stressed or anxious. And, food is a fuel for your body. It's a way to feel good and to feel energized. And when you see it in that way, you start to strip away the emotion of food, which when you have problems of overeating or, eating too much sugar or whatever it is for you, then it can really be a tricky thing to navigate if you don't have the right mindset. So you need to embrace a mindset that will sustain you. And one of the ways that you can do that is through journaling. And, and in this bonus that I've created, I've got the journal prompts that really help me to stay on track in relation to my health and wellness, and and also at the end of the day. So I journal, and I don't journal for a long time, but just a little bit every day really helps. And then sort of having a review and reflection at the end of the day is really powerful as well. So these are 3 habits that have been really powerful in relation to my journey to wellness and well-being and helping increase optimal health. Now, I just want to also touch on something that I have incorporated into my daily life, which is to, eat clean food as much as possible. And, sugar is a drug that our bodies don't need. And it's not just processed sugar. It's not just adding a cup of sugar into a cake, for instance. There are so many hidden sugars in food, and it's really eye-opening when you start to go on that journey and realizing just what is actually in the food that you're eating, which is nothing to even start talking about all the preservatives that are in food as well. So it's really about eating food in its most natural state as much as possible. And look, I mean, there's always a change in language around all of these things. For a long time, it was about eating whole foods. Now, there's this whole idea of clean foods. And just to give you a little bit of an insight into that, if you're not familiar with this term, then it's basically referring to eating foods that are as close as possible to their natural state, which is really a way of encouraging people to make meals as much from scratch as possible. So obviously there are some like, are you going to make, for instance, your pasta from scratch every night? Well, many of you won't. However, there are ways around that. I mean, I minimize the amount of flour that I eat, and that's part of my protocol. But so you can look for other things such as quinoa or whatever it is. There are so many different grains that you can have as well. And one of the reasons that eating clean is a huge health benefit is that the foods are very nutrient rich, and because they come into contact directly from the earth and they haven't been overly processed, whereas most diets, in terms of the way people eat, that is, a diet is the way people eat, are very rich in heavily processed foods. There's synthetic ingredients, there's fats, sugars, salts, chemicals, preservatives, food dyes, so many different things, which, your body doesn't really know what to do with them. And so these ingredients, they can really be detrimental to your overall health and well-being. And whereas when you eat in a more clean way, then, you're eating these nutrient-dense foods, which it fills your body with lots of vitamins and minerals and the sort of high quality, healthy fats that really are key for improving your heart and your brain health. And and of course, this helps your immune system. It increases your energy levels, and the food tastes better. And for those of you who are trying to manage your weight, it's it plays an important role in that too. But for me, it's very much about how can I optimize my health. How can I feel energized and just feel good, like wake up feeling good and feeling energized. And as I get older, it's really important to me that I can tell my body is very slowly but surely slowing down. So I'm doing certain things to, prolong my sort of health and well-being as long as possible. I've got a father who's got diabetes, and, he's got health complications as a result of that. And I'm very conscious that there's a whole generation who've been sold this kind of pyramid, where they were saying like, have as much pasta and all of these things as much as possible. And it's all about low fat. And, there are huge, huge ramifications in relation to that. And, I think that the more that we learn about what is good and important for our bodies, for our wellness and well-being, then, we need to incorporate these ideas as much as possible into our lives. And there are so many things that we can do to eat in a healthier way that is enjoyable, and it's, energizing, and it's the way that we're supposed to eat, really, in many ways. So these are some of the things that I really incorporate into my daily life. And as I said, make sure that you're getting at least 7 to 8 hours of sleep. It sounds so obvious, but it really does make all the difference. And plan your meals ahead of time so that you are always making, intentional decisions with what you eat. And even if it is, and this is what I do, on the weekends, I don't eat the same kind of foods that I do during the week. During the week, I have a different protocol to the weekends because that's when I'm with my family. But I've made that decision ahead of time. So it's not like I'm kind of, giving into urges or sort of desires or impulses. Instead, it's like, no, this is what I've planned to have on the weekend, and I'm going to enjoy this with my family. And then, on these other days, that is how I'm going to eat on these other days. And like I said, that third habit of really journaling daily, if you really are feeling very overwhelmed about your food, I encourage you to actually write a food diary and look at what you actually are eating. It's amazing how we can trick ourselves into not even realizing what we are eating. So, and again, that's where this meal planning can really make you aware of what you are eating or not eating. So, I've certainly simplified my habits in very simple and easy ways that are easy to sustain. And, as well as having some simple exercise systems that, are good. We've got yoga, walking, strength exercises, and, all of those help me feel good and, as fit and healthy as I've ever felt. So, I think that's a good thing. It's certainly more healthy than what I've felt in previous decades. So, if you're really serious about, optimizing your health and really simplifying your approach to what you eat so that you can nourish yourself and thrive and feel more energized, then I encourage you to join the wait list for the Decluttering Masterclass so that you can get that bonus when it goes live. And I'm really excited to share that with you, and just imagine what you would feel like when it comes to, 3 months down the track where you're really feeling more energized and inspired to meet every day with your full energy and feeling good. So I hope that inspires and encourages you wherever you're at on your journey. And I really appreciate you joining me today. And I wish you all the best for 2023. I can't wait to connect with you over the coming weeks. And thank you for listening to Imprint. All of the links and info for this episode are at nataliewalton.com/podcast. Don't forget to subscribe so that you can get a direct download of the latest episode. And I really appreciate when you take a minute to rate and review, as well as share the love with someone you know who might benefit from this episode, or on social media. If you'd like to access a range of free resources, come visit my website, nataliewalton.com. Thank you to Jaeger Media for producing this podcast. And I would also like to acknowledge the people of the Bundjalung Nation where it was recorded, and pay my respects to elders past, present, and emerging. I look forward to connecting again soon. I'm Natalie Walton, and you've been listening to Imprint.